All right, hey, welcome into Rock Down Detroit Lions. Man, what did Micah Parsons say about our new Detroit Lions linebacker, Damone Clark? We're about to find out right now.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
All right, what's happening, everybody out there, man? Thank you for joining me on this video here today. I want to talk about Damone Clark and what Micah Parsons had to say about him. We're going to roll through Damone Clark a little bit more because we haven't spoken a ton about this guy. And the more I keep digging, the more I keep finding, the more I keep liking of what this guy could add to this team. Look, we lost Alex Anzalone. We lost some of these glue guys, and some of these glue guys are pretty important. So bringing in a guy like Damone Clark might not seem like a glue guy right away, but I'm telling you, I really believe that, he knows Shep. He understands the system, played at LSU, right? Former number 18, all that good stuff. He's a glue guy, and he is someone that can, earn his way into this locker room by doing what he's about to do on the field. So let's kind of wind back a little bit of who this guy is and why I feel there's more to this player than what the fan base believes right now. So 6'2.5" or 6'3", depending on which site you look at, 240 pounds, almost 10-inch hands, man, 9 3/4, 33-inch arms. So really long, 8.5-inch wingspan, really long for his size. Good ape index score, 105, which means that he's above average for a linebacker. And he had some really good seasons, right? Both in college and it is really in his first, full year in Dallas. Career stats and key metrics, 198 tackles, 26 starts. I think he's played in over 55 games now, 6 TFLs, 2 forced fumbles. The 5.4 missed tackle rate, that's what gets me excited, because if you remember, Alex Anzalone was, 17% some years, 13%, 11%, but never that 5.4%. Anything sub 10 is incredibly good. And this guy's a rap tackler. That's just what he runs through people's faces, man. He's fun to watch. The will linebacker for sure. I think that's where he's going to start out here in Detroit. And then he'll earn his way everywhere else, but he's going to be able to play special teams and do anything and everything that Shep asked of him. Let's get into some of the bio and medical. He began, in Louisiana playing for the LSU Tigers, and where I said he ended up, getting awarded the number 18 jersey, which epitomizes, a player for what they do on and off the field. Glue guy, right? Someone that is just as involved in the community and their teammates and their team, all together. He's all about the accountability and doing things the right way. He produced 135 tackle first team all SEC campaign in 2021 before heading off to the NFL. However, in 2022, prior to the NFL draft, he had an MRI and it revealed that he had a herniated disc that required a fusion surgery. Now, he dropped all the way to the 5th round where he was selected. I'm surprised that he was even taken. given the magnitude of the situation with his back. But hey, look, they felt this guy could play. There was no reason why you weren't going to take at least a day 2 guy, 2nd round guy, and pick him up in the 5th and just kind of hope for the best, right? Which speaks to what 5th, 6th, 7th round draft picks typically mean to teams. Those are players that you're willing to take risks on, right? Even some of the 4th round picks and even some of the 3rd round picks, depending on the draft. Those are players you're willing to take some risks on. Regardless of what some people will tell you, not every pick is equal and not every draft is equal. Why did he hit free agency, right? That's the big question. Well, his trajectory started out hot, in Dallas, but there's kind of a 2 different stories going on here. And it largely is because of the coaching change. But in 2023, when he went from this medical question, right, who is he going to be? He turned into just a player. 109 tackles, a premier eraser out there, sideline to sideline in Dan Quinn's system. Speed first was what Dan, Quinn's architecture was in his defense. And it was built on having player-dependent flexibility, right? You wanted each player to kind of do their own thing. So that architecture worked well for him in what he did, which, weaponizing that speed. He runs like a sub 4.5 or 4.57. But that 1.55 10-yard split, that's what you're looking for from a linebacker. That first step explosion, that first step quickness, the lateral, agility, or, the short area quickness. He has all that, right? So change of direction. He can do that stuff, on a dime. So was put out there to go hunt ball carriers, off the perimeter, the wide zone stuff. He's out there to go find these guys, meet them where they are, and take them down. So in that system with Quinn, he was used as a hunter, a high pursuit weapon, someone that was tasked with erasing the perimeter screens, tracking down the outside zones, like I said. And this environment really allowed him to utilize that lateral burst, and it became his greatest asset. It turned into a breakout season for him in 23, 741 defensive snaps. And then 24 happened. Well, in 2024, they made some changes, right? Dan Quinn was moving on to Washington, and they brought in Mike Zimmer, who installed that dogmatic 4-3 over-under, which I love the over-under scheme. I wish we would do it in Detroit. Maybe we're going to do some of that this year, but then again, with the guys we're bringing in, I don't think so. I think we're going totally different. You'll see. So anyway, they bring in this 4-3 over-under front, which kind of derailed him because he doesn't really fit that momentum of a defense, if you will. Zimmer has this inside-out philosophy that really dictates what the linebackers are going to do or what he wants them to do, which, number one, they needed to be an anchor instead of a hunter. Well, this dude's a hunter. He's not an anchor. He's not, a bump on a log waiting for something to come to him. He's out there, actively trying to find the ball carrier, zip through the defense or through the offensive line and get to the quarterback or the ball carrier, whatever's there. So in this scheme with Zimmer, it really required the second level defenders to operate in a phone booth. And you kind of think about that with an offensive line, but yeah, I mean, some of the linebackers and, obviously defensive linemen do that. So it demanded them to stack and shed. Totally different style, right? He's not, someone, not saying he can't do it, but he's more developed into, getting in space, right? And not having to go lock up with somebody, push him aside, get into the net, and keep building towards, the quarterback or the ball carrier. So climbing 320-pound guards, that's not what he does, right? That's just not what he does. So you're putting him in tight quarters to maintain gap integrity, and again, you just ruin this guy's ability. So Quinn coveted that range that Clark has, sideline to sideline, exactly like Anzalone. Like Anzalone was utilized to go sideline to sideline, get after the ball carrier, drop into coverage. I think Clark can do it to a better degree, honestly. I know that's a big statement because Anzalone means a lot to this team and its fans. And look, I agree. But I think that Clark is going to surprise y'all. He just has to stay healthy like everybody else, right? It's kind of an oxymoron at this point. So what the Dallas Cowboys did, they brought in these big, bulky guys, like Mozzie Smith, who I don't believe is even there anymore. And then they brought in the linebackers like Eric Kendricks and Luai Fatu, I think is how you pronounce his name. But guys that have lower center of gravity or extreme length, high IQ, discipline fits, and very rigid requirements in this, A and B gap, fitment that they want these linebackers to do. So what did Parsons say, right? And why does it make sense as to why this scheme did not fit anymore for him, right? For Clark. Parsons different, right? Because Parsons is used as a defensive end, even though he is a linebacker really by trade, I would think, with his size. But he's always been used as a defensive end in that scheme. So Micah Parsons came out, obviously a former teammate of Clark, and praised that elite top-end speed and the physical traits that Damone Clark has, which telling the media way back when, Clark's rookie season, I believe, that he said that he's faster than him, that Clark was faster than Parsons. And we know that Parsons is extremely fast. So when fans started to debate that quote, the data ended up backing it up. So the tracking data by Next Gen Stats ended up proving that Damone Clark hit 22.19 miles per hour while chasing down Justin Fields in 2022. Get the F out of here. Like, that's cruising. 22.19 miles an hour, making it the fastest max speed ever recorded by a linebacker. There's no way this dude really runs a 4.57. It has to be faster. Because a 22.19 miles an hour, I mean, that's like Jahmyr Gibbs territory, right? I mean, I think Jahmyr Gibbs touched that twice last year, maybe a little bit better. But Parsons also went on to say, in a couple of quotes that I have here, he said, quote, "He's a dog. He's someone that's going to work his butt off every day. I've seen the growth from year 1 to year 2, and the way that he attacks his rehab and his film study, it's second to none. He's going to be a great addition to any room because of that mindset. He just flies to the football. The context here is that Parsons was frequently asked, or frequently praised, Clark's work ethic and who he was as a football player. And during their time together in Dallas, specifically highlighting the recovery portion of Clark, coming back from the spinal fusion and that surgery, and then becoming a 100+ tackler in his first season. So clearly, that stuff, what he was saying was true, right? It was absolutely true. And that we can back that up with some of the other quotes, from some of these other guys. For instance, Brian Schottenheimer, he was the assistant coach back in 25. He says, I want to really emphasize how much Damone means to me. What an incredible young man he is. In my conversation with him, I said, hey, man, your career is just getting started, and sometimes change is good. I really believe that. I think you have to handle things the right way, and this gives him a chance to go find a home and get excited. Obviously, with Dallas moving on from him. Well, that was backed up even further because back in 23, when Dan Quinn was there as a DC, he said this, and this is why I'm saying the glue guys that we're missing, right? The guys that we just let go, or the Lions let go, we're missing some glue guys, right? Like, we need some guys in this room that just do things the right way and can keep every room, linebacker, offensive line, running backs, receivers, they're in individual rooms working towards the same common goal, keeping them glued together, right? So Dan Quinn said, quote, in a lot of ways, I've been really proud of Damone Clark. To see the energy, to see the speed on the field, when you see that speed come out as a coach, I know the hesitation is gone. He's a relentless player who fits that hit anything that moves style we look for. So Quinn highlighted, Clark's 4.57, 1.55, 10-yard split speed and his ability to just eliminate that mental hesitation that young players typically have. And he was a young player back in 2023. So that tells you that no matter where he is in his situation in life, whether it's on a new team or a new scheme, like, he doesn't have that hesitation. He takes the time to learn, right? And even when he was going through rehab and he was coming back from the spinal injury, there was another quote that I had, and I don't know where I put it right now, but essentially what it said was this guy was out on the field going through all of the mental reps, even though he wasn't allowed to, hit, suit up, do anything. He's going through it all. He's kind of going through the motions, sitting behind everybody, acting like he's tackling the air and going through all the mental reps, talking to the guys, talking it out. That's a guy that's invested. That's a guy that is going to show you through his work ethic that he belongs on the field. So Damone Clark, man, don't shy away from a guy like this just because he's a depreciated asset right now, and that the Brad Holmes is out, signing these guys, for really good deals. Don't think that this guy can't come in and play at a high level, because I'm telling you right now, I think he can. And especially when you start to look at the differences as to why, some of these things went the way that they did for him, it wasn't all his fault. Like I was saying, when you look at the Dallas linebackers, and I know what you guys are saying, but Will, Dallas wanted to go to these bigger anchor style of, linebackers, right? Well, all those players in 24, when they made the scheme change, they're all the same size as Damone Clark. But were they? Not really. Let me break this down for you real quick before we get out of here. You have the leverage displacement, right? So you have guys like Marist Luifau. I don't know how to say his name. I don't know how to say his last name. Luifau, whatever. But while his 40 time was slower than Clark's, he had 34.5-inch arms, right? And so you covet that size, that length. And in Zimmer's stack and shed system, that arm length is more valuable at keeping those big offensive linemen off of you than to have just pure speed. Or you have the processing type, right? Or the fixture in the middle of the defense, now that you've gone to this 4-3 over-under, and that was Eric Kendricks. And so he was the on-field general in Zimmer's system. He was a trusted general in Zimmer's system. Been around it a few times with Zimmer. So at age 32, he was significantly slower than Clark, right? But he had gap integrity, and he was the anchor in Zimmer's system and has been that was required to run that 4-3 over-under. And then you have like the redundancy and speed, but they also brought in Mario Overshown, right? So he was a newer, linebacker to the team, but he essentially is the one that really took Clark's job. And he's an explosive linebacker. He's 229 pounds. Clark's 240. But, where they kind of matched in that top end speed and similar in style and weight, Zimmer really prioritized Overshown's fluidity in coverage. See, Clark wasn't a coverage guy. He was a see ball, get ball guy. He was a hunter. And so I'm glad we have a hunter because we need someone to clean up the mistakes, right? And that's what he's going to do, is he's going to clean up the mistakes. And I'm not saying that he can't cover. I think he can cover just fine. But in our system, I think that, when you look at a guy like Calvin Shepard and the acquisition, I think it's tactical. I think that you have a reunion here for a reason. You have somebody that can echo the same sentiment of the defensive coordinator. And they kind of bring that LSU blood into the room, right? The ability to, kind of be a director of player development, if you will, like Calvin Shepard was. Now he gets that opportunity, Clark does, in this room to kind of help develop these guys. He's a little bit older, in that room, so it's going to give him an opportunity. It's obviously Jack's room, but you know what I'm saying. So don't give this guy, the cold shoulder, if you will. I think that Clark's going to be just fine. If he stays healthy, he's going to be just fine. He's an elite processor. He's just a speed demon out there ready to wreck some ball carriers. So, look, I'm excited about you, Damone Clark. Don't let me down, man. Go out there and prove it, man, like you have been. And we'll see you on the next one. All right, probably go to Detroit Lions. You guys take care. We'll see you.
Pressured by Hutchinson.